Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we are doing a deep dive into the raw data and strategic forecasts from top analysts to unpack exactly why the world feels so incredibly fragile right now. We're going to map out how one fallen domino on one side of the globe is literally triggering systemic shockwaves on the other. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap. 1. The fragile new world. 2. Middle East under fire. 3. Spheres of influence shift. 4. Wars at machine speed. And finally, 5. Global economic fault lines. To truly wrap our heads around the reality of 2026, we kind of have to start with this profound quote from the Italian philosopher Antonio Gramsci. He wrote, "The old world is dying and the new world struggles to be born. Now is the time of monsters." And security analysts from the Stimson Center and the Eurasia Group characterize our current geopolitical moment exactly like this. They call it an interregnum. Basically, the post-World War II rules-based liberal order, the system that's largely governed global trade, norms, and security for 80 years, is rapidly unwinding. And the chaotic, honestly terrifying reality is that a new stable system just hasn't been established yet to replace it. And the stakes of this chaotic transition? We are sitting at just 89 seconds to midnight on the doomsday clock. When you read that in the source material, it's a stark, historic metric. It reflects this completely unprecedented convergence of global threats happening all at once. We're talking everything from nuclear proliferation and regional wars to climate decline and the entirely unregulated explosion of artificial intelligence. All right, Section 1, the fragile new world, unwinding the global order. So, as major powers actively reshape the global system and U.S. domestic political shifts create what feels like a power vacuum, a really defining feature of this new era is the fundamental economic divergence between the electrostate and the petrostate. According to the Eurasia Group's top risk assessments, China has mastered the 21st century electric stack. That's everything from electric vehicles and advanced batteries to the massive power grids you need to run AI. They've essentially become the world's first true electrostate. Meanwhile, the United States is cementing its status as the world's largest petrostate, staying heavily reliant on 20th century fossil fuels. So, why does this matter to you? Well, because emerging markets are increasingly favoring China's cheap, modern infrastructure over legacy energy. It's causing a massive geopolitical shift, bringing Beijing commercial benefits and global influence that traditional soft power alone could never, ever deliver. And compounding this huge technological shift are massive internal vulnerabilities across the globe. Intelligence forecasts highlight a U.S. political revolution that is fundamentally altering the nation's role in the world and actively eroding traditional alliances. Across the Atlantic, Europe is navigating rising populist movements. This is leading to severe political gridlock in Paris, Berlin, and London, right when strong leadership is desperately needed. Simultaneously, China is battling a really severe deflation trap that's devastating its local industries, which pushes Beijing to aggressively export its surplus and crush international competition. The overarching theme here is a systemic retreat from multilateralism. Major powers are heavily focused inward, actively hindering any sort of coordinated, unified response to these global crises. Moving on to Section 2, Middle East under fire, Operation Epic Fury and the Red Sea. In early 2026, the long-simmering tensions surrounding Iran's nuclear reconstitution efforts finally reached a boiling point. In February, the U.S. and Israel launched Operation Epic Fury. This was a massive, highly coordinated military campaign, utilizing precision decapitation strikes against Iranian command centers and nuclear facilities. However, what the intelligence reports show next is a rapid, deeply asymmetric retaliation from the entire axis of resistance. Iran launched thousands of munitions across the Middle East. By April, a really tenuous ceasefire was brokered by Pakistan. But make no mistake, the regional architecture had been permanently and violently altered. The spillover effect from this was immediate, and it was devastating. Following the strikes on Iran, the Houthis in Yemen resumed a massive maritime blockade in the Red Sea. Now, pre-October 2023, we saw over 2,000 average monthly commercial sailings through this vital corridor. But by March 2026, that number plummeted to just 1,034. The Houthi maritime interdiction was so successful, partly because they utilized a really expansive definition of what makes a vessel a target, that major commercial shipping lines were actually forced to permanently reroute their fleets around the southern tip of Africa. This fundamentally fractured European-Asian supply chains. And the economic warfare certainly didn't stop in the Red Sea. During the conflict, Iran established de facto control over the Strait of Hormuz, successfully halting 20 to 30% of all global energy transits. The crucial takeaway for us here is really one of cause and effect.
Overwhelming conventional military superiority from the US and Israel absolutely did not prevent Iran from successfully choking off global energy supplies. They proved their structural resilience. And that presents an immense dilemma for global energy markets, one that directly ripples into your daily life at the gas pump and the grocery store. Let's jump to Section 3. Spheres of influence shift. Venezuela and the first island chain. So let's look at how these massive energy and security shocks ripple outward. We are seeing major powers basically use global distraction to aggressively secure their own backyards. Over in the Western Hemisphere, we witnessed Operation Absolute Resolve in January 2026. After years of economic pressure, the U.S. executed this lightning-fast, unilateral military intervention in Caracas, effectively capturing Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. This was a direct, forceful reassertion of the Monroe Doctrine, aimed at securing renewed oil concessions to rebuild aging domestic infrastructure and establishing an exclusive U.S. sphere of influence. But experts from the Council on Foreign Relations note that this unilateral approach has triggered widespread regional backlash. It's actually pushing Latin American nations closer to China, and it presents massive, long-term stabilization risks for the U.S. military. So, the crucial point here is that this rising trend of unilateral military action, coupled with the complete erosion of post-Cold War treaties, has ushered in what strategic analysts are calling the third nuclear era. This is a highly volatile security environment. It's defined by rapidly modernizing arsenals, a total lack of binding arms control agreements, and, crucially, a sharp decline in the perceived reliability of the U.S. extended nuclear deterrent. Simply put, allies are getting really nervous. And we can see this paranoia playing out right now across Asia. Because of global instability, South Korea, which is traditionally a non-nuclear state, is pushing for a low-enriched uranium submarine program just to secure its own strategic autonomy. This creates a highly replicable blueprint for other nations. Now, Japan is openly reevaluating its historical nuclear allergy. Meanwhile, China is exerting extreme economic and military pressure to prevent this regional proliferation, while a heavily nuclear-armed North Korea is actively threatening preemptive strikes. The global security architecture in Northeast Asia is permanently fracturing before our eyes. Let's see how this builds into a perfect, terrifying example of the 2026 domino effects over in the South China Sea. Step 1, the Middle East conflict and the Strait of Hormuz closure cause a massive national energy crisis in the Philippines. Step 2, desperate for energy, Manila signals openness to joint oil exploration talks with China at the contested Reed Bank. Step 3, instead of accommodating diplomacy, the China Coast Guard aggressively blocks Philippine vessels and asserts physical dominance. Step 4, diplomatic progress stalls completely. So, an energy shock in the Middle East directly forced diplomatic maneuvers in the Pacific, which are ultimately thwarted by gray zone military coercion. Everything is connected. But keep in mind, the battlefields of 2026 aren't just physical. Which brings us to Section 4, Wars at Machine Speed, AI Cyber Attacks. And this brilliantly illustrates the terrifying reality outlined by cybersecurity firm Booz Allen. On the human defense side, we operate on a timeline of hours or even days, right? You have analysts investigating alerts, seeking leadership approvals, and manually rolling out patches. But on the flip side, AI-driven attacks scan, test, and exploit networks in mere seconds or minutes. The fundamental problem here is a speed gap. Human defenders simply cannot keep pace with autonomous artificial intelligence. And the evolution of this digital threat has been absolutely staggering. Just trace this accelerating timeline. In May 2023, AI-forged tokens were used to breach U.S. government agencies. Fast forward to November 2024, and an AI agent autonomously discovered a zero-day exploit in software code. And suddenly, by January 2026, a tool called CVE Genie was capable of taking 51% of known documented software vulnerabilities and automatically turning them into working exploits. In just 3 short years, the cost and skill barrier to entry for launching highly sophisticated, massive-scale cyber attacks has completely collapsed. Because AI agents now automate the full cyber attack lifecycle, our critical infrastructure, I'm talking our power grids, water treatment plants, and financial networks, is incredibly vulnerable. Defenders can no longer afford to rely on manual triage. To even survive this machine speed era, organizations are being forced to adopt a human-AI teaming model. They must pre-authorize AI defensive systems to automatically isolate systems and contain threats in seconds, long before human approval can even be granted. Because if they wait, the damage is already irreversibly done.
Finally, we reach Section 5, Global Economic Fault Lines, Systemic Fallout.
So how do all these kinetic and digital threats compound? Well, the answer is tied to this massive number, $35 trillion. According to economic analysts at the Stimson Center,
That is the amount of global consumer wealth currently at risk in a potential market crash. Right now, the global economy is masking deep underlying weakness with a massively overvalued, totally unregulated artificial intelligence investment bubble that honestly has yet to prove its real productivity gains. The systemic economic shocks of 2026 are literally coming from all sides. We have that AI investment bubble risking a 2008-level financial collapse. We also have a zombie USMCA agreement, which I know sounds like a bad movie, but it's actually leaving North American trade in a constant state of limbo and unpredictability. Meanwhile, across the global south, we are seeing massive Gen Z rebellions toppling governments. These are triggered by huge youth populations facing totally unmanageable national debt and a severe lack of jobs. And to make matters even worse, we're witnessing the literal weaponization of contested water resources, as vital agreements like the Indus Waters Treaty between nuclear-armed rivals are simply suspended. And amidst all this intense geopolitical friction, global cooperation on our most existential threat has fractured completely. At the COP30 climate summit, binding fossil fuel roadmaps were entirely dropped. The grim reality is that climate countermeasures are failing precisely when they are needed most. Nations are abandoning green energy targets for short-term economic gains and a return to fossil fuel reliance. And by doing so, they're effectively ceding the entire green technology leadership space to China. Which leaves us with this final, vital question to consider. In a multipolar world moving at machine speed, how resilient are our global institutions to the next inevitable shock? As the old rules-based order fades away, can humanity find a way to cooperate without a singular dominant hegemon to maintain order? Or are we truly entering the time of monsters? Think about that for a bit. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this structured breakdown has helped you grasp the incredible complexities of the 2026 landscape.